Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. Happy Monday, poddies. It is almost the end of August. Like, what? I'm going to be 30 in less than a month. I don't know whether I'm terrified or excited. I think I'm moving to the terrified side of the line, but I don't know. Anyway, this is going to be a goodie. I'm excited about this episode, and I wanted to fill you in on a little conversation that I had behind the scenes recently, because I think it might make your Monday morning. So I was talking to a friend of mine recently, Anna Pinkerton. If you don't know her, check her out. She's got this really awesome business based around healing your inner brutality. It's actually very, very cool. I was very interested in it, and she's working with some really cool companies as well, which is just, I think, phenomenal. But anyway, I was talking to Anna, and I was saying about glamorous lifestyles, okay? And we were having a little bit of a chat, a little bit of a giggle. It was a Sunday afternoon. I think it was a Sunday afternoon. And I was saying that, okay, here's how glamorous my life is. The business owner that I am, I couldn't be bothered to get dressed on a Sunday. So I was legitimately lounging around, lots of L's there, in my PJs. And it got to about, 3 o'clock, I think. And I realized that I had not got out of my pajamas all day, but B, I also had no food in. Now, if you live in the UK, you'll know shops here shut at 4 p.m. on Sundays. And I was like, oh my goodness, even though I have a supermarket about 100 meters down the road, I just didn't want to get dressed. It was really hot, like, ugh. And so I was talking to Anna, and I was like, yeah, do you know what I've done? I have Amazon Prime nowed, like that's a verb. I've Amazon Prime nowed actual groceries to my house so I don't have to leave. And she was like, that's hilarious, but also, what have you ordered? And she couldn't quite believe it when I told her, this is how aspirational my life is, poddies, that what I had actually Amazon Prime nowed was not necessarily a ready meal or, vegetables or anything that I could actually eat and consider to be, a real human source of sustenance. But it was actually 2 bottles of Prosecco, 1 bag of red and black only wine gums, and 2 packets of Jaffa cakes. So there you go. Consider me adulting over the summer, and that is what I had. And Anna said to me, you should tell people about this, because it's one of the things that makes you quite likable, is the fact that you are really quite normal. And so actually, just for you, Anna, I did take a video, because Anna listens to the podcast, right? So I took a little video with the full intention of sharing it onto my Facebook business page on the Monday. Unfortunately, on the Monday, something happened and I couldn't post to my Facebook business page from my mobile, and subsequently forgot about it. So here you go. Here is the story on the podcast instead. And at some point, when I can actually, have a bit of a chat with Zuckerberg and say, hey, Mark, like, what's the dealio with my Facebook business page? I will even upload the video that I recorded on a Sunday afternoon, demonstrating the fact that I can adult with 2 bottles of Prosecco, 2 packets of Jaffa cakes, and a bag of red and black wine gums. So just in case anybody else is not adulting this week because you are in summer holiday mode, do not feel bad. I was doing this weeks ago. It's totally fine. But today's episode is not just about my eating habits or lack of healthy eating. I am keeping up the running, so don't worry for all of you out there who are concerned about my fitness journey. I've lost a whole bunch of kilos, and I mistakenly put a photo, well, not mistakenly, but I put a photo of myself in my fitness gear on Facebook recently with a message about nothing changing unless you do. And lots of people liked the photo and said that I was looking really fit, which was a really interesting and also slightly awkward experience for me. Quite reserved as a human being, so it was a little bit unnerving. And then I realized that I'd become that person that didn't care because I had 1 ab that was showing, 1 whole ab, whoop, whoop, despite the Jaffa cakes. So this podcast is not about fitness, and it's not really even related to my eating habits or my Amazon Prime Now shopping. It's about my move this year into bold leadership. And I've mentioned the term a couple of times, in fact, to my email list recently. I think I've talked about the term on the podcast recently. I actually had the amazing Tara Newman from the Bold Leadership Revolution on a guest episode. We had this really amazing conversation about burnout and how to show up post burnout. And it's been really playing on my mind this year. And there are a few reasons I want to take you back, because summer is a good time to reflect. It's a good time to reflect on what's been going on. And I've made a lot of different changes to my business this year. I hired a really high level coach, Ali, and it's been amazing working with her, by the way. It's been really eye-opening. And it wasn't what I thought I was going to get, wasn't what I expected, but it's been what I needed. And actually, it's been a year of endings for me in some ways. There's been a lot of endings this year, personally, professionally. We've had different things going on in life that I found quite challenging at times. And it's been really difficult for me in some ways to continue sometimes working, showing up, being visible, creating content, doing all the things that you just have to do. Sometimes it's been a real challenge. And a couple of weeks ago, I talked on the episode about what you can do if you really are going through all the things. But it's also been a year where I have made choices to step into bolder versions of myself and my business. And my biz besties behind the scenes have been phenomenal. So obviously I've had amazing Ali as my coach. I've been on Voxer, glued to Voxer pretty much permanently, to the amazing Heather Gray and the lovely Tara Newman. I have been using my support networks of my friends, of my family, anyone that I can get my hands on, really, to talk about the changes that are happening and to talk about sometimes how uncomfortable like stepping into that bold leadership position is. And it's actually not something I thought I'd have to really do this year or talk about this year, because last year I went through lots of changes in my business, and I went through messaging changes, and I decided to make some bold moves in terms of coming away from spending so much time on social media and upping the podcast episodes, and then, upping the amount I contacted my email list. And this year, so far, and we're August now, or will be when this airs, so far this year, I've launched a new corporate entity to my business. I have launched an event for that audience, which, by the way, tickets are selling out incredibly quickly. So if you are looking to sell to corporates this year, we do not have that many tickets left. Make sure that you hit the link in the show notes, bit.ly/sell to corporates - the event. It's going to be amazing. So we've created this event. I've said goodbye to my membership. I have taken services away. I've removed things from funnels. We've redone behind the scenes. We've redone a lot of the tech. I've hired team members. I've fired team members. I have had to have numerous difficult conversations about lots of challenging things. It's been interesting, right? It's been interesting as a year. And every single time that something's come up, and I said this to Ali on a coaching call the other day, so here's a little snippet of how the coaching calls go. I said, you know what, every week this year there's been something, right? And it might be personal and it might be professional, but every week. And sometimes I just get to this point where I'm like, oh my God, like, really? And she laughed and she was like, do you know what, it's so messy sometimes. She was like, and you have these really messy periods. You might have like a really messy summer or a really messy autumn. And it's just the universe pushing you towards an inevitable solution and trying to get you there quicker. And that's why it's messy. And I'm not woo. So of course and again, that's something that we laugh about, but I kind of sat there and I was like, this year there's been a lot. And yet, even though there's been a lot, even though every week, like I say, and I have moaned about this regularly to my biz besties, to my friends, to my family, to everybody, even though it's been really hard, it's also allowed me to step up massively in certain areas and embrace certain bold leadership techniques that I probably wouldn't have done otherwise. Okay. And I just want to share a few with you because I think it's really interesting, particularly when it comes to sales. Like, we forget that inherently, whenever you sell something, you do become a leader in some way. When someone buys something from you, you are leading, they are following. And that sounds a lot, now I've said it out loud, that sounds actually quite, awkward, but it's not meant in that way. But here's the thing, key lessons that I've learned this year about bold leadership. 1, who are you? I don't think, in fact, I know that I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago when I started my business. And it's interesting because in some ways, I'm actually a much better person. I would say that I am much nicer. I would say that I'm much more tolerant. I would say that I have a lot more patience. But you know what that kind of niceness also breeds? Sometimes is contempt. And actually this year, I've had an awful lot of lessons that I've had to learn and challenges that I've had to face around setting boundaries. And that's been really interesting for me because when I was in corporate, and I've talked about this, I was known as the ice queen. Like, I could be very, very challenging as a human being. And I didn't necessarily enjoy being told what to do. I wasn't very good at taking instruction. And I was not necessarily very tolerant of people who didn't pick things up quickly. Like, I was, look, I wasn't always the nice person that you hear in front of you today. Okay. But coming into the online world, something switched and shifted in me. And some of that, like I say, was good. I definitely learned more patience. I learned to be more tolerant with people. But like Danielle Laporte says, I also kind of went into this space where I was overly tolerant in certain situations. And Danielle phrases it really well in her book, White Hot Truth, which if you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. It's fantastic. And she has this phenomenal quote that says, "We are overly tolerant because that's what we believe compassion is." Isn't that great? Or not, if you're listening to it like me and thinking, oh my God, that's me. And this year, I've had to make some bold moves when it comes to boundaries. There have been times where actually I've had to step up, where people have been incredibly rude to me or to my team. And I've had to make decisions about how I communicate that behavior is unacceptable. And that's been challenging because now I'm like this recovering niceaholic, and setting boundaries now doesn't necessarily come as easily to me as it did 10 years ago when I didn't really care what anyone thought. I just went in, I did my job. Who cares? I won. I was competitive. I didn't need people to like me. But as I've got older, maybe that's a factor in it. And as I've built my own business and it's on a personal brand, I've definitely worried a lot more, and on occasion I've been like, am I too accessible? Am I too nice? Do I let people take the biscuit? And yes, absolutely, 100%. I have done, and I probably, will continue to do so because this is a part of my personality now. It's something that I'm having to learn. And there's nothing wrong with being nice, right? There's nothing wrong with being a good person, but you have to look at what is it impacting. And what I was finding this year was that actually it was impacting my ability to do my job, because what was happening was that the toxic, I can't say relationships because that's not true, but the communications that I was getting from people and the situations that were occurring and the things that were happening that arguably I was letting happen because I didn't want to, quote unquote, be mean, were not okay. Wasn't examples of acceptable behavior. And there were certain things that happened, like say people were rude to me or they were rude to my team. They would come into communities, they would be very aggressive, like free communities and things like that. And I actively asked people who were close to me, why do people do that? Because sometimes there were things I would never dream of saying or doing to anybody else, and people would do them and say them to me. And I was like, why is that? Why do people think that they can do that to me? And people said, well, because you've trained people that you don't have a boundary, that it's okay, And so actually now, one of the things that I've worked really hard on and one of the bold steps of leadership that I've made is to really be clear about my communication with people and to really define what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And, one of the things that I've always had in my programs is boundary documents. One of the key rules in those boundary documents is always do not be a dick, because I think that life is much better when you are not. And I'm now applying that to everything in my business. So if someone is really rude to me or to my team, instead of getting a let's kill them with kindness message back, we're not rude, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm still British, I'm still courteous, but we are explaining clearly to people how we want them to behave and how people in my community do behave. And if they can't accept that, or if they can't move forward on those terms, then we're terminating those people, right? In every area. Clients, team members, people that I'm working with, right? Because I don't want to be overly tolerant. I want to be compassionate. And there's a big difference. So that's one of the lessons I've learned this year. It's about boundaries. And that's been huge. That's been a very bold step forward for me, to say no to people, to adjust people's expectations of behavior, to be very clear in my communication when behavior is unacceptable and what I want to change. Another thing that's come up for me around bold leadership is really questioning myself about what I actually want and making decisions based on that. And that's really difficult. As business owners, you know, we make decisions based on lots of different factors. We make decisions based on, will it help us get more clients? Will it help us increase our visibility? Will it build our brand? Will it help protect our reputation? Will it do more for it? Etc., etc. The list goes on. But sometimes it means that we put ourselves at the bottom of that pile. Like, what do I want? And again, that's a personal thing and a professional thing. And this year, you know, one of the things that has repeatedly come up for me is that I just wanted some time out. I'm like, you know what? For the majority of the year, I am on it for my clients. I'm on it for my family. I'm on it for my friends. I'm just, you know, I'm there. And, you know, usually about twice a year, I get to take a holiday and just not be on it. And this year I didn't. And I really missed that. And we're in month 8 now. And I, you know, or as I'm recording this, you know, and airing it will be month 8. But at this point, I still haven't been on holiday. And I'm like, I need to prioritize my self-care. It's very easy for me, especially when Sam is away, to get caught up in, well, I can just do this work, and oh yeah, I can just answer that thing at weekends, and oh, I can just pop in and do that immediately. And it's also been very easy for me to slip into patterns of reactivity. Oh, my client has just sent this over, I'll do that right now. And I'll drop everything else that I'm doing to do it right now, even if that's something for my business. And actually what I found was that wasn't serving me. It wasn't bringing me any, well, it wasn't not bringing me joy. You know, I always love helping my clients with stuff, but it was also training people that I wasn't important, right? Jess will drop whatever so that I can have what I want right now. That's not cool. And, you know, the thing about being a business owner is that you have to come first, because ultimately you are the business. You know, you're the one that has to drive everything. You're the one that needs the energy. So if you're sat there and you're always dropping the ball on your stuff because you're prioritizing everyone else's, guess what? Your clients will get great results, but you will see a downturn in yours, and you will also see a downturn in your enjoyment. Self-care, man, important. So, you know, one of the things that I've done to rectify that is make sure that actually I have some free weekends in August before we inevitably do the holiday and the family stuff and everything, just for me, right? Just for me to sit at home in my pajamas, ordering stuff from Amazon Prime, terrifying the person who delivers them. Because ultimately, that is a lesson in leadership that I needed to learn, you know, both for me, for my own sanity, but also for my clients. You can't train, and I've said this repeatedly, you cannot train your audience to be you. And, you know, I have a very different lifestyle from the majority of my clients. I don't have children. I don't really have much that I have to do on a day-to-day basis that involves other human beings if I don't want to. And so actually I do have time to sit. I do have time to drop things. I do have time to spend in my paid communities, a lot more time than I probably would have otherwise. But actually that could lead to my clients trying to emulate that and being a very dangerous situation for people who don't have the same lifestyle, who actually do have to feed their children, go shopping, do, you know, normal life things, because it sets them up for a standard that they can't meet and makes them feel like they're failing when they're not. Yeah. So that was a lesson for me. And then it was also a lesson, the kind of what do you want piece and making decisions from what you want was a lesson about filtering. I don't know whether it's because I'm about to be 30. I'm blaming a lot of things on being about to be 30 this year, just as an FYI. So if you're wondering, like, what's Jess blaming, the weather on this week, it's because I'm 30. What's Jess going to blame, the heat wave on? It's because she's 30. What's Jess going to blame, whoever the new prime minister ends up being on? No, it's because she's going to be 30. That is it. That is my thing. But something that's been bothering me is about this filter that, even though I thought it was kind of gone, wasn't. And I don't know how it's going to play out, if I'm honest. The filter that has kind of kept me from releasing some stuff. It's been a long time that I've wanted to tell entrepreneurs, for the love of God, go and sell to corporates, because you will make more money and it will be easier. I've wanted to say it for years, but I haven't. I've talked it behind the scenes, talked about it to my clients. Occasionally, I've talked about it with my friends, but I never put it out there because it was this filter of, people might feel bad that they're not selling to corporates, or people might feel bad that they don't want to, or people might feel bad that they don't know how to, or people might feel bad that they can't afford to go to the event, or people might feel bad that and on and on and on. Here's the thing though, that filter, that particular filter around let's not say anything about selling to corporates, has kept not only me stuck, but also, a bunch of other people that could have already been to an event I could have already hosted and be making money from corporate companies. In actual fact, the event has been one of the quickest selling offers that I've had this year. It's really specific. We have nowhere near the amount of listeners for the Selling to Corporates podcast on iTunes that we do for this show, but it's already selling tickets. People are already emailing in. I've been on some discovery calls with some really, really cool people recently from that show, from that world. And it's been really nice to take the filter off. It's also been really nice to take the filter off in some other areas. Finally closing down my membership. Really crappy decision to have to make, by the way. But I had to look at the offer through an unfiltered lens. And it was clear to me that it wasn't doing what it needed to do anymore. And that bothered me. And it inspired me to make the change. And, in September, we obviously have the brand new 5K roadmap coming to replace the membership, which I'm very excited about. If you're not on the wait list yet, make sure you get on it. The link is in the show notes. And again, removing the filter has given me the ability to actually help more people. When I talk about this filter, it's not just in messaging. I'm not going to suddenly go out there and be like, right, I have to drop an F-bomb every other sentence because I want to be unfiltered now. It's just that I think it can be hard. Sometimes it can actually be harder to have built a business over a period of time, whether it's 1 year or 3 years or 5 years, to you build up all of this stuff, right? You build up this brand, you build up a persona, however closely that's linked to your authentic self or not. You build up a ton of offers and you build funnels and you have emails and automation and just things. And actually it can be really hard to remove the filter and step back sometimes, particularly if it's working, because you feel like people already have these expectations of you. And, that's one of the things that I am really working hard to overcome this year is other people's expectations. And again, it's a 30 thing. I've been told by so many people that apparently when you're 30, the day that you turn 30, you just don't care anymore. You're like, whatever. It's fine. I'm 30. Who gives a stuff? And, I think that's so interesting because other people's expectations definitely keep us stuck, especially when it comes to sales and marketing. We worry about what are other people going to think? What will they think of the offer? What will they think of the way that I'm marketing? Will they think it's sleazy if I sell to them? Will they think it's sleazy if I reach out to them and say, here's how I can help you? Will they think it's gross if I market in this way? Will they think that my branding's not on point? And we worry about so many things that in the end, we just don't do the actual task that we came to do. And, for me, actually stopping worrying so much about that filter, stopping worrying so much about other people's expectations of me was really relaxing because, if I don't think about it, I can't worry about it. And B, meant that I could actually assess my business objectively for the first time in quite a long time and actually look at, well, what do I want to do? What do I want to sell? What do I think is most beneficial for my audience? How do I want to show up? And as a result, the feedback has been that the podcast episodes have been better than ever. The conversations have been more interesting with guests. The newsletter is more widely received than ever. And, more people open it every single week, which I'm really glad about. We have more new buyers that I've never heard of, by the way. And it's been great. Like I have people who I've literally never seen in any community, and they're just buying stuff. And I'm like, woohoo, this is awesome, because it means that, you know, what I'm saying is working, which is good. We like that, but also it's resonating quickly with the right people and repelling the wrong. And that makes a big difference. So if you can remove that filter for yourself this year, I would highly recommend doing it, because it's painful. It's a painful process, but actually it lifts a big weight off your shoulders and it gets results. And I'm seeing this across the board with my clients. You know, I'm talking to my clients inside Evolve, which, by the way, if you haven't joined Evolve yet and you want to get your application in, make sure you hit the link in the show notes. You can come over, you can apply for Evolve and really change your business in Q4. But I'm seeing this across the board. I'm seeing clients having to learn really big lessons this year. And sometimes they're really crap lessons, right? I'm seeing people have to, like me, learn about boundaries or filtering, or they're learning big life lessons, or, you know, big things are happening personally that are really impacting other areas of their life and business. And it's a challenge. 2019, I think, has been kind of a treacle year. It wasn't the catharsis that I think a lot of people were expecting. And I think, you know, that means it's been quite hard. People feel like they're walking, like wading through mud a lot of the time. But actually, I also feel that the people who have been really receptive and coachable, and, you know, who've been actually learning the lessons as they go and thinking, right, okay, well, what is the opportunity that I'm gaining here? What am I learning from this situation? How can I apply this elsewhere? Those people are happier. Those people are turning the corner now. Those people are seeing the fruits of their labors start to pay off. And so I think, you know, one of the biggest things that I've learned this year about bold leadership, and again, none of this is about what I'm putting out there or what I'm teaching or new concepts, but one of the biggest things that I've learned internally for me is that sometimes it is about not being worried about what you can't control, showing up for you as a person, as a human, showing up for your business, and actually just letting go of the other worries, you know, and letting go of the constant second guessing, and letting go of the I need to be right, or the ego-based stuff that, of course, comes into how we feel about our businesses, particularly when we're asked to make any changes. And actually just accepting that sometimes there are things we have to learn, and learning the lesson can be just as easy or as difficult as we make it. I would love to hear what 2019 has brought up for you so far, because we are now past that midway point in the year. And so if you haven't had the year that you were expecting, I'd love to know what other lessons that you've been taught. Like, what has life taught you, or what has business taught you this year that actually you think, yeah, I can really use that as an opportunity to turn something around in Q4. I would love to hear it. Hit me up on Instagram or email me, jessica@jessicalorimer.com, so that we can have a little chat, because that's always good. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I hope it's given you some food for thought. On the podcast this Friday, we have the lovely Meike Sang. I'm very, very excited about this conversation. You're going to love it. It's all about how you can write better copy, and how you can write copy that reflects who you are and that converts like gangbusters. So if you are interested in that, make sure that you check out that episode on Friday morning with lovely Meike Sang, and I will see you on Friday.